Good morning, y'all. Hey, I'm happy to be here for no other reason than I'm from Texas, and it gave me a reason to come back home from D.C. I got to tell you, being from D.C., it's nice to be home. Hey, last year I did get a chance to participate. We did this in Kansas City, and a couple of lessons learned. One is we did not allow enough time for the audience. And that was my fault. I did not anticipate the number of questions that would be available. So I've committed to making sure that you do have an opportunity to speak. And as Michael said, there's a microphone over here by the tractor, so please participate when the opportunity comes. Second, that lesson learned last year was the facilities did not have enough coffee on hand. And I think about 10 o'clock in the morning last year, we ran out of coffee. And I tell you, if you're at a conference that has veterans who are farmers, and you don't have an endless supply of coffee, something's wrong. And I'll tell you, the lesson I learned last night is if you don't have beer and whiskey on hand, there's probably something wrong as well. So I am happy to be here. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Keith Wilson. I'm a United States Army soldier. I am born and raised in Texas. I was born in Houston. I grew up in San Antonio. So coming back home, I hope that those of you who have not been to Texas had an opportunity to experience some of the great things that we have to offer here. I hope some of y'all have had a chance to have some of the great Mexican food. I hope some of y'all have had some of the opportunities to have some of the great margaritas, some Texas barbecue. I did hear last night a couple of gritos out on the town, and if you don't know what it is, you were probably one of those doing it. So it's exciting to be home, and it's exciting to be here in this event. I've been doing this program, the Soldier for Life, for 2 years, and in that experience, I've come to appreciate not only the opportunities that are out there for all of our service members, but specifically for those that are interested in or involved in agriculture. Our program, the Soldier for Life, does outreach on behalf of the Army. So we go out on behalf of the Army, and frankly, we do it on behalf of all veterans and service members. And we work with organizations, we work with communities, corporations, universities to establish or expand programs that support our service members, our veterans, and our families. And it is through those efforts that I became familiar with, interested in, and exposed to all the opportunities that the Farmer Veteran Coalition specifically offers, and all these agencies and organizations that are involved here today offer. And so I'm happy to be part of this. Before I get started, I want to take a chance. I know we do have a lot of veterans in the room, both previously served and many that are still serving in different capacities. So I just want to go around the horn. How many have served or are serving in the United States Air Force? Pretty good show of hands. Very quiet, though. Pretty good show of hands. How many? That's too late, Air Force. How many have served in the United States Navy? Pretty good showing. How about the force that actually has the most watercraft, the most aircraft, the largest infantry fighting force, United States Army? Like it. Okay, oh yeah, that's great. And last but not least, United States Coast Guard. Okay. I think there's one, and then someone sympathetic in the background, so I appreciate that. Hey, yeah. I tell you, I always say, if you're in a room with the Marine, they won't let you not realize it. So, seriously, hey, Marine Corps, love the Marine Corps. Big holiday just a week ago, right? Veterans Day. So, no, United States Marine Corps celebrated their birthday last week, so, exciting to be here. I like to joke about the inter-service rivalry, and it is rampant in the military, but woe be the non-veteran that starts talking smack about the military or our veterans in a room full of veterans. So I appreciate everybody's service. Absolutely. I do appreciate everybody's service and the veterans that are here today. Like I said, I've been doing this for 2 years. Last year was my first year doing it, and I talked about my experience farming, and that was limited to dating a farmer's daughter in Kansas when I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas. So I have limited experience, which is why I get to ask questions and I don't have to answer the questions. But through that experience with her and her family, as well as the experience in the last couple of years in this role, I have gained a vast appreciation for what our farmers do, what our farmer families do, and all the businesses and organizations do that support farmers. And I realize that farming is not a job. Farming is not a job, it's a way of life, and nobody better embodies that than y'all sitting in this room. And I can't, again, express my appreciation enough. So thank you for what all of you do. I'm going to talk briefly about the format of the panel, and then we'll start getting into some questions. We have some great experts up here, and I have talked to them about kind of what we're hoping to gain from this, and we'll get into that. Basic format is we'll do a quick introduction. I'll ask a few specific questions just to kind of build a foundation of what the organizations that they represent do in support of y'all. And then we'll open up for some questions, and we'll talk about how we're going to do that in a little bit. I've asked each of these panelists to focus on the audience perspective. We're here to talk to you. We're here to support you, so we want you to be the audience. Those of us coming from Washington or representing the large bureaucratic governmental organizations in Washington can sometimes get caught up in the muck and mire of policy and administration. But today we want to focus on what's relevant and applicable to you, the farmers that we're here to support, because it's you working hard every day that are making things happen. For the audience, when we transition to audience questions, I'll ask that you focus on topics that are relevant to the entire audience, or the audience at large, and keep your specific personal interests, issues or concerns that you may be dealing with for sidebar conversations that you can have with the panelists afterwards. We don't want to get into a significant discussion about a USDA loan or an SBA loan that might not be relevant to the entire group. So I would ask y'all to help us kind of keep the conversation on track. So at this point, I'd like to introduce our panel, just briefly from where they're at, and then I'll give them a few, an opportunity to say a few words. So starting on my right, your left, working across the stage, Bill Ashton is from the United States Department of Agriculture. Mike Miller is from the Department of Defense. Roxanne Griffith is from the Department of Labor. And then to my left, Jamie Wood is from the Small Business Administration. And at the end, Dr. Karen Besterman Dawn is from the Department of Veteran Affairs. So Bill, we'll start with you. If you could just briefly, in a few sentences, a short summary of your specific responsibilities and what your organization does. So Bill, please.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me out there? Again, my name is Bill Ashton. I'm the Military Veteran Agricultural Liaison at USDA, and I normally focus on the last part of my title, liaison. And with that being said, what I would ask is all the USDA employees that are here today, please stand up. Okay, I'd like to see those people because when the questions come to Bill Ashton, I'm going to liaison those questions right over to them. I am not a subject matter expert, but what I do is I try to get the right answer for our veterans. And so I've been in the job almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in January. I'm proud of the fact that I have visited 5 farms. I actually know what a high tunnel is. So when I go into a room of non-farmers, I say to them, do you know what a high tunnel is? And they all say no. And I feel pretty smart. So again, my biggest thing is to look out for the veterans and anything I can do for veterans. And so I'll turn it over to Michael.
So good morning. Good morning. And first, thanks for letting us be here. This is my 3rd year being here, and it's gotten bigger every year, as Michael said. I'm just happy to be here, although I'll admit that I was a little nervous at first and wasn't sure I was going to accept this invitation, and I'll explain real quickly. I got the invitation before the Texas State Fair, and seeing as how I grew up in my formative years doing some cowboy stuff north of the Red River, it wasn't until after the state fair, and those of you from Texas, this is an inside joke, folks. Those of you from Texas, after the state fair, I was quite comfortable coming down. So, okay, that's Oklahoma, Texas football. Okay, all right. Hey, that's funny to me. So I'm from the Department of Defense, and what's important here is, as was mentioned, huge bureaucratic organization. So what we do in this space, there's three things, and most importantly, recognizing, I think, that we're different from the other folks at the panel. All these folks are wonderful folks that are there working with you day in, day out, helping to solve problems and do things that you're doing that make this country even greater than it is today. Our role is different, and all of you are familiar with what our role in the Department of Defense is. It's all about readiness. It's all about ensuring that we have the ability to maintain this way of life. Part of that is that our number one thing we have that allows us to sustain the all-volunteer force moving forward is the ability to recruit and retain good quality people. How do we do that? By you that served going out and doing great in the community. So that's what our connection is. And what we do with that is our role is to educate, train, provide information, and connect 200,000 folks every year getting out of the service and 800,000 guardsmen and reservists that are taking and working in communities and sometimes doing what you're doing so that they can be fruitful on the outside. So our role is a little different. We're in that connection phase. And in so doing, we take a lot of pride in the growth that's happened over the years, as Michael was mentioning, between these 5 government organizations. What we do, we work regularly in D.C. together, but at the end of the day, all the good stuff happens at the ground level, and all the good things happens at your local level. And so we try to write good policy, we try to do good things and negotiate with each other and make sure things are set and conditions are correct. But at the end of the day, it's you and these folks on the ground that are making a difference. We're happy to be part of that, and I can talk later when we have the questions about specific programs we put in place to ensure that your next legacy, because that's our piece, you're already out there. You're working with these 4 organizations. We're working with our current troops to put them and have them sitting where you are tomorrow, and that's our role.
Kind of hard to follow Mike. I don't know why they sat me next to him. Good morning. My name is Roxanne Griffith. I'm with the U.S. Department of Labor. I am the Regional Veteran Employment Coordinator over the Dallas region, which encompasses 13 states. In my agency, we have an organization called VETS, a division called VETS, Veteran Employment and Training Services, and our unit is a very small part of that, the Office of Strategic Outreach, and it sounds like a whole lot of government lingo. But there's only 6 of us across the nation, myself and 5 other of my colleagues, and they're all in the other regions. So you may not be in one of my 13 states, but you may be in a state that someone else on my team covers. So don't feel like the information I give you, it won't be relevant. In our role, obviously, with the Department of Labor, our one mission is employment. It's our main mission. However, a lot of people do not know that the Department of Labor also provides training services. So I'm really happy to be here. This is my first veteran conference, and I will tell you, being a New York City girl, I don't have a green thumb, so it was kind of funny. I was like, what am I going to do at a farmer's conference? I guess I'm going to learn, right? But I'm also going to bring you the information that I have so that you can utilize our products and our services in your everyday lives and on the ground with your teams, whether they be your current staff or future staff members. Pass it off to Jamie.
Jamie.
Good morning. I'm Jamie Wood. I'm with the U.S. Small Business Administration. My current role is the South Dakota District Director, so I'm one of 68 district directors out of district offices across the U.S., and I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, covering across the whole state. Blessed to be there. I'm from South Dakota. I call it the other South. I am married to a Texan. I said, honey, we're moving to the South. We were in the D.C. area, so we're moving south, and it's South Dakota. And so, but good thing he likes to fish, and he's okay. He's a cuddler, so the cold is okay. And anyway, glad to be home, but I'm really thankful to be here in this capacity, continuing to be a great partner with Farmer Veteran Coalition and the interagency panelists up here. I started my career with SBA back in 2014 in the Office of Veteran Business Development at the Small Business Administration's headquarters in DC, and that's kind of where it all started. 2 or 3 weeks after I arrived, and my most of my civilian career with DoD was with DoD. I served over in Europe for a long time. I'm an Army veteran, and when I got to DC, the first opportunity to engage actually was in Iowa, in Des Moines, on the panel for the Former Veteran Coalition, and I was really pleased to be able to connect to this group, and also, moreover, to tie the Small Business Administration resources to this phenomenal group, the stakeholder group. So farming and ranching, they are a way of life, a wonderful way of life, but they're also a business. And guess what? If you're selling over $1,000 worth of products, I believe that's still the number of goods, agricultural products, you're a small business owner. And if you're not registered as one, you need to go get registered as one. You need to, because that's the law. And we are in the business, our agency, we're in the business of being experts at small business. And so we do have many resources that are paid for already by your taxes. Thank you very much, my taxes too. And I want to talk to you today about how to get you connected. Like I said, we have 68 district offices, so we're in every single state and more. Some states like Texas, California, for instance, have more district offices, and we have a whole network of resource partners that I'm going to talk to you about a little bit later too. I do want to give a shout out. I hope that you're in the room. I can't see you because there's many of you, but our local Texas office out of San Antonio district office is here. Do we have you in the room? If you are, please stand up. And if you're not, that means that they're over at the information table waiting to talk with you. So we also have our regional administrator that covers this area here today too. Justin Crossy is here, Anthony Ruiz is here, and then Lionel is here as well. And so please seek one of us out, and we're going to be able to talk to you even more specifically on how to get connected.
Good morning. My name is Karen Besterman-DeHaan, and I'm with the Veterans Health Administration. I am a researcher. I'm a medical anthropologist. I've been there about 11 years. A medical anthropologist, what that means is that I look at culture, the intersection of culture and health. And culture can mean a lot of things, so that could be military culture, veteran culture, farming culture, organizational culture, and nonprofits. And then the impact that it may have, all of that with health. And so I have a focus on transition stress, post-deployment health, and reintegration. And for about the last 5 or 6 years, I've been looking at the impact of agriculture, participation in agricultural activities on health. We all know that there is an impact, and people who have been here before in the last few years have probably heard me. So we all know that there is an impact, but it's really important to measure this in a rigorous way, and that is what I try and do, whether it's through research or really good evaluation work, because a lot of people find that it's therapeutic, but we need to make sure that we're getting really good measures of this, and that's what I try and do.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to begin the first round of questions. Again, this will be focused specifically to individuals with the intent of kind of establishing a framework for some of your questions. We'll do 1 to 2 rounds of these, and then we'll take a few questions from the audience. So if you have any questions already in your mind, you start making your way over to the microphone. We'll get to you in a few minutes. First, we'd like to start with Bill Ashton. Bill, as we begin this panel discussion, can you paint us a picture of the challenges that are facing the agriculture landscape across our country in general, and some of the ways in which veterans can turn those challenges into opportunities, both as veterans and then those that are transitioning into agriculture?
Great. Well, one of the challenges, I think, is the fact that, the average age, not in this room, but the average age of a farmer is about 67 and a half years old. And as Secretary Wilkie from the Department of Veterans Affairs says quite often, today's VA is not my father's VA, and today's farming is not my father's farming.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. And Mike, just to kind of build off of that, specifically with regards to some of the transitioning programs, your organization obviously covers an array of programs, services, and resources that support the transitioning service member, those veterans. Can you briefly describe the efforts that the Department of Defense is taking to expand service member access to programs like pre-apprenticeships, on-the-job training, access to education, et cetera?
Sure. Okay. You get to choose. So first, I agree with everything that Bill just said. It's a wonderful environment, and the reality is for most of our veteran farmers, that they're veteran farmers and something else. So that kind of ties into the whole agribusiness concept or rural development concept. And so with that, we've really evolved a lot over the last couple of years. And probably the biggest place we've evolved is we've taken and the entire concept of getting ready for getting out of the service now begins formally with sit-down discussions about your career plans, what you want to do, no later than 365 days prior to getting out. And that's huge. Most of you folks probably had the conversation with somebody, if you ever had it, maybe 90 days out. 365 days out, there's formal conversations. And what that leads to is an opening of opportunities, which includes now 180 days out. We're allowing folks to take, and while we're still paying them, while they belong to us, we're letting them go out and experience the civilian world. And to do that with corporations that run from dairy farmers to Disney down in Florida. Last year, we allowed 11,000 people to do that, and they could do that up to the last 6 months that they're in service. This year, we plan to expand that beyond 11,000. And the key to that is called Skill Bridge. The Army calls it Career Skills Program. The other services call different things. But for the department, it's called Department of Defense. It's a Skill Bridge Authority. And it does exactly what that says. It bridges from what you're doing now, gives you a chance to try something on, and someone to try you on. And this goes back to what I talked earlier about. Our role is to help build the next generation of youth. Those are some of the things that we've taken and developed to get there. Now that's important because it runs all the way from trucking programs, because most of you that are growing something has to be trucked somewhere, right? And to folks that are working in energy, to folks that are working on diesel mechanics, to folks that are running whatever type of business support that you need inside your environment. And all of those, we have over 400 companies right now that are sponsoring these various things across the nation. We have over 200 sites where we're allowing people to go and experience these civilian skills. Now that becomes even more important as we look at just the process of how they do that. So if you're at Fort Hood, Texas, and we have a program, we have about 12 programs at Fort Hood itself, but if none of those match what you want to do, and you want to go up to, let's say, Tacoma, Washington, and do something in that environment with fruit in the agricultural industry. Well, we've allowed you to do that in the past, but you had to do it on your own dime. What's changed in that is now if the sponsoring organization is willing to provide the funding for your transportation and to give you housing while you're there, we've determined that that's not an official gift, that because you're transitioning out of the service and going to another career, that we're going to allow them to do that as long as they offer it to all their folks they're bringing in. So not only are we starting the training education period now a minimum of 12 months out so people can start to understand and explore what they want to do, we're also giving them an opportunity to take and go out and try it on and for other folks to try them on. And then on top of that, we're helping to alleviate some of the financial strain if the opportunity you're looking for isn't in your backyard. And I'll stop there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And as has been mentioned by a few folks today, as well as those on the panel, Roxanne, many of the farmers, ag-related business owners, operators, they are employers. Can you talk about what the Department of Labor offers in the way of resources to farmers and ag-related businesses, specifically as it relates to being an employer?
Absolutely. So I love the segue because we kind of all went down the line. And what I like about the fact that the Department of Labor partners with these other agencies is that you can build off of a skill bridge, or you can build an apprenticeship all on your own. It could be a standalone. So as a farmer, as an employer, you may find that there are soldiers or airmen coming out of the military who aren't versed in the farming industry. They may have that diesel mechanic background, or they may have a business background, but you want them to have a little bit more knowledge of what you do and why you do it, because you get buy-in that way from people. We can go ahead and create something called a registered apprenticeship program. And all that is a structured training program to take them from where they are now with the base knowledge that they have leaving the military to where you need them to be, so that they can help you run your business and make it successful, or grow your business and expand it beyond the borders that you already have. So whether it be expanded to another city or another state, we could definitely build a registered apprenticeship as that. If you happen to go into a career skills program, we can actually tie the two together, because in that 12-week training program for career skills, they may not get all the skills and information and training that they need. We can tag on an apprenticeship program so that when they walk out the gates of the military installation and they roll over from being a transitioning service member to a veteran, they now roll officially into an apprenticeship program. What I like about the apprenticeship program is they get certified by the U.S. Department of Labor. So that is a legitimate certificate that tells them that they're trained in something. And we as veterans in the room know that we love training, don't we? I mean, from day one, you go in and you're in training mode until the day you leave. And so it kind of helps. It also helps to give them buy-in to the organization so they know what that mission is and what they're working towards, or how they can help that mission grow, because at the end of the day, we're all mission focused. It also helps them bring those core values that leave the military, but are ingrained in them, to that new organization. One of the other things we have, and I'm sure you should all be familiar with it, is the workforce centers or American Job Centers locally in your state. A lot of people do not know that the Department of Labor provides the funding annually to the states to run those programs. Those are paid for with your tax dollars, like Jamie said. Thank you very much. My tax dollars as well. However, if you're not using them, you're just giving your tax dollars to the government, and somebody else is benefiting somehow, some way, or resources are going to waste. If you're in a state, find out what the closest American Job Center is to you. If you have jobs that you need posted, they have a system, that they can put those jobs in, and every state has a mandate that they have to look for the veteran qualified applicants first, or at least notify the veterans who are looking for work that that job has come available. It's like a 48-hour guarantee for veterans. So you can definitely get your jobs out that way. The other thing is every state workforce center feeds up to our National Labor Exchange. So you might have somebody applying from DC because they're transitioning out, but they're moving to South Dakota, and they'll see your job and they'll be able to apply to it. So that's another great resource. We also have Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. It's abbreviated WIOA. We all know how much we love acronyms in the government. And that's another program that you can definitely check out at your local American Job Center. So I'll stop there until the next question.
Thank you. All right, Jamie, we've talked a lot, obviously, about the role of being a small business owner, operator. Obviously, folks in here know you cannot be a farmer without being a businessman or a businesswoman, also related to ag-related businesses. Can you talk about some of the programs, resources, and services, not only for those interested in starting up their business as a farmer or an ag-related business operator, but also those looking to kind of move beyond startup into other areas, et cetera?
Absolutely, and you don't have to write any of this down. Just write down this website, sba.gov/OVBD, Office of Veteran Business Development, and all the information I'm going to talk about that's available to veterans and families and active duty military service members, Guard and Reservists, all at this website. Or you can also go to sba.gov and look for local assistance for your whatever state you're in, and you'll find the information as well. Just pick your state. South Dakota, I recommend. We got a great tax base there. It's good for businesses. Texas doesn't need everybody. Come to the other South. Anyway, so we have so many incredible resources that are available to all small business owners, but actually there are some specific resources available to the veteran demographic. So we have an amazing network of resource partners. SBA federal employees don't do all of the work on our own. There's only around 2,000 of us that are covering all of our 68 district offices and headquarters in DC. So we rely on funded partners to actually carry out the one-on-one business counseling. So we specialize in business counseling and training, access to lending, access to capital, and access to federal contracting, and also we have sloshed over into the corporate contracts to help navigate that space as well for small businesses, and disaster assistance. So with our network of resource partners, they are the Veteran Business Outreach Centers. The acronym is VBOC. There's 22 of them across the United States. And they are, why is there only 22? Well, actually, when I first started in SBA, there was around 10, I think. So they've actually grown. Every few years, we have 22, and they're regional centers that cover a few different states, and they are amazing. They're an ecosystem. Although they're funded solely by SBA, they're connected to an ecosystem, including in the ag sector. Many VBOCs they've actually hired experts in ag to help veterans to navigate the small business space and ag industry. We have women's business centers. They help men too, but they're really mandated to focus on women. The women demographic for small business has actually substantially grown, exponentially grown since the early 2000s, so around 2007 time. And there are actually more women startups now than their counterpart male startups. So Congress has done some surveys to look at, well, what are some of the challenges that women's small businesses are still facing in any industry that you're in, whether it's agriculture or non-ag. And so we've put a lot of resources towards targeting the women demographic to make sure that they're equipped and have an equal playing field and access in that global market the same way that their male counterparts do. So this is very important to know. And there's WBCs in every single state, women business centers. SCORE is our largest national partner. There's over 11,000 volunteers. All of our other resource partners are paid employees, but SCORE are volunteers. There's over 11,000. And what I love about SCORE, it's at score.org, is that you can do a by industry search. So this is not ag, but it's an example I like to use. Recently, I had somebody come into my South Dakota office, and they had a travel agency, and they were in their home, working out of their home, and he said, I love going to the Small Business Development Center, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them in a minute. They really helped me with my financial projections, but I want to go from my home to a brick and mortar travel agent store and storefront. And I really just wish I could find somebody who knew about the travel agent business. And I said, well, we can. Let's go over to my computer, and we went to score.org, and we did a by industry search. Now you can do this for agriculture too. And actually, I don't know if they still do or not. Bill, you might know more, or Esther, Lynn might know. Okay, good. SCORE still has a memorandum of understanding, an MOU with the USDA to help with experts in the ag industry. So this isn't a solo mission. Just like in the military, small business, agriculture, non-ag, whatever side hustle you might have going on that complements your ag. I call that sustainable agriculture, actually, as you do have a side hustle to kind of help you through. But anyway, there's industry experts in the ag space that can help you as well as in the small business space. So with this travel agent person, we did a by industry search. There were no specific experts in South Dakota that were registered with SCORE, but we found him one in Florida, one in California, and one up in New England. And he was able to leave with names and contact information so he could actually specifically reach out individually with them. So all this information is available at your fingertips, including for the ag industry. Sometimes you have to look outside of the bubble. That's why I threw in the travel agent thing to help you realize that, hey, this is available in here too. Okay, the Small Business Development Centers, they're also one of our strongest resource partners. Now, they are the very tip of the spear as far as helping with financial projections, market analysis, like how much should I price my carton of eggs at to be able to make a living? And how many do I have to sell? Or a cup of coffee? Or maybe you do have a side hustle where you're an excellent fabricator, like a welder. I bet you thought I meant lying, but anyway, you're a fabricator for welding. The lieutenant governor in South Dakota right now, he's in ranching, but he also has a welding business on his ranch. So this is something to think about when you're bringing these wonderful skill sets out of the military, or military spouses that might be in the room, and you're educated and you have experience as well, and you are bringing these amazing resources too that might not be just ag specific, but they could complement what you're doing. We mentioned earlier, the tractor trailer or diesel mechanic repair, or being a long haul driver. In South Dakota in the winter, you're not growing much for actually vegetation production. So a lot of folks decide to buy themselves a semi. And you can actually use SBA lending. So I wanted to get into that access to capital a little bit, because you can use our loan products in many different ways. You can get $500 to $5.5 million to help you with your small businesses. And I'm not going to go into specifics on what they are, because we customize these loans with a network of traditional lenders. So we have thousands and thousands of banks across the United States. And if you want to get quickly connected to a lender in your area or even nationally, we have an online platform now called Lender Match. So we knew we needed to be competitive in that lending space. And while I recommend you go in and have a relationship with your lender, because that's how you really get people to the yes, because lenders are humans too. And just like you, they want to have that relationship and know you and believe in your dream. And they want to help you get to yes at that loan table, but they want to make sure that you have earned that yes, because it's risky, and that's where SBA comes in too. We don't do the direct lending, but we back the loans. A little bit about, I wanted to talk one more about microloans. If you're not looking at microloans, you need to be. Find out who the microlender is for SBA in your state, and there's other microlenders too, but SBA has a phenomenal microloan program. In the past year, out of all of our loans, our different types of loans, the microloans have skyrocketed. This is because people are starting to understand what they are. They're $50,000 or less. They max out at 6 years, so you can't go beyond 6 years. And the average microloan right now is between $13,000 and $14,000. So most people to start a business, whether you're in any industry, is way less than $50,000. And we also call that the first rung of the lending ladder. So there's a lower interest, smaller, shorter term, which is more achievable. And that can help you graduate into the next type of loan. Our USDA partner in South Dakota, they just sent me an example of where they used SBA microloan, and they also used USDA loan to help a veterinary clinic get started and grow. So that's a way to do it. A little bit about federal contracting. The largest number, the biggest market for buyers is outside of the United States. Guess what the percentage is? 95% of the market is outside of the United States. So if you're not looking at how to get your products to Canada or Mexico or another nation, maybe you served in Germany. You need to be looking at that. And we have the expert relationships inside of each state to help you connect with those. We also have a wonderful program called Veteran in Procurement, VIP, where you can go for free. I mean, you have to pay to get yourself there, but for free, there's a 3-day cohort up in the Washington, D.C. area that will train you and connect you to prime contracts that are looking for subs. And then 3% of all of federal contracts are set aside for service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, and they're set aside for women-owned businesses too. So if you're not looking at that, please
Wait a
do.
second. I see you going down to your next bullet. Let's pause. We move to
Okay.
Karen. And then I want to get, because we messed this
Okay.
up last year, I want to get to the audience. So we'll do
Okay.
one more question to Karen.
I'm a little
and-
excited
and
about
I'm going to
this.
come over here to the audience.
It's taken me 5 years to learn all
She
this.
will
I've
be
got a
here
lot to
for the
share.
next, like,
I-
two
and
and a
I
half
told-
days. We'll put her in a room.
I'll be here till tomorrow. but
And
I-
y'all come and talk her
I
ear
told
off. We'll
Keith
let her
I didn't
talk
know if he
yours
was
off.
going to ask me any other questions, so I said I'm going
Okay,
for
Karen.
it. Yeah.
I was getting excited about
Good.
Karen's ready to go into
I didn't
farming.
even
Karen,
get to our
you're,
connection with VA, but we've got some there too.
okay,
Yeah.
Karen, you are well established in the, kind of across the country as a leading expert on the effects of agriculture, the therapeutic effects of agriculture on our veterans. Can you provide a brief overview of the research that you've done, the things that you've learned, and where you see that going next? And then we're going to come over here to the first question.
Sure. Okay, so I want to just figure out how to, are we going to be doing another, did you say we're doing another round after this?
Oh,
or-
we are not.
We are not.
Now, we are
Okay.
going to go to them.
Okay.
To
I
ask
knew
a few
it.
questions, and then depending on timing, we will come back, potentially do a second round.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Okay, you give a qualitative person 3 minutes. I'm going to talk fast. Okay, so we know through the work that I've been doing that agriculture, participation in agriculture, we know through very small studies, the larger studies that we've done with Farmer Veteran Coalition, and the small studies that we've done with Growing Veterans, they validated each other that it is provides purpose and mission, provides a lot of therapeutic value, and there is a difference between therapeutic and therapy. Just to harp on this a little bit, therapeutic, it gives you a lot of good feelings, it provides a lot of great psychosocial and vocational skills. However, that's not meant to say that it's supposed to take the place of therapy. It's meant to more be augmentative or open you up to, but not take the place of, with licensed therapists. A lot of what we have found, and it provides access to additional health care. So, for instance, in our work with Growing Veterans, we found that this acted as a hub for veterans who were going there, sorry, but I just see you there, to find out about all different other kinds of benefits that they were eligible for that maybe they weren't open to before because they didn't like the VA, imagine that. So, but going to a very safe, comfortable place like an agricultural initiative, they found out about other forms of benefits. So it acts as access to additional health care. That's very, very important. People are in different points in their continuum of recovery and reintegration, and we know that. Opening up businesses is not for everybody. For some people, it's getting them just to, out of social isolation. So there are lots of programs for lots of people in their points of continuum. These are the things that we're finding. For some people, it's just getting them out on a regular basis, getting some accountability, feeling camaraderie, feeling belonging, and that they can transfer their skills. For some people, they can go a little further, maybe going out to having a plan to volunteer and take those skills somewhere else. We met people that maybe never left their house, and now they're willing to go out and volunteer their skills at a school. And then there are others further along in their continuum who want to build a business, and they're there. Not everybody is at the same place. So these are really important points, and these are things that we're learning. Currently, the VA has VA Farms that I talked about last year. We're just finishing up our first year of VA Farms. It's in 10 sites. Each program is radically different, and that's by design. Uh-oh, was that my 3 minutes?
No.
No, okay.
You've got 5 more.
All paranoid. So each one is radically different by design because we know that there is a different, it's not a one-size-fits-all. I mean, look around, everybody has different models. And it's because geographically, population-wise, the skills that you're building, the continuums that we just talked about, there is no one-size-fits-all. So we want to see in 10 different sites VA community partnerships, what's working well in this place versus this place versus this place, and what can we glean from those 10 sites? What are the takeaways? What are the good practices? What are some lessons that we're learning? And we're all learning good lessons. And at the end of this, we're going to try and develop something. It's not to build a standardized practice that you must have a model that looks like this. It's more about lessons learned, because South Dakota is very different from Florida, where I'm from. So, and the populations are very different. So we have to have things, this is where anthropology comes in. It's all about the local context. But what we have found so far is it mirrors everything that we found in the past. Vocational skills, psychosocial skills, all of these are being enhanced. It's opening people up to additional access to health care. And non-health care, like benefits and child care and other different kinds of access. It's giving people purpose and mission, and it's not just about building an employment pathway, although that's very important. It's not for everybody. It's a vocational pathway. So something that's providing meaningful activities, and we know that that's really important for quality of health. And for some people, it's about getting them out of the house and giving them purposeful, meaningful activities that gives them the purpose and mission that they need and decreases social isolation. And this we'll be continuing this for another couple of years. This is a congressionally mandated project, and this is really exciting to have the VA doing this, and we're really proud to be leading this evaluation.
All right, thanks, Karen.
All right.
I'm going to turn it over to audience questions. Appreciate the patience over here. I would ask when you come up, obviously use the microphone. We put it up here so that everybody in the audience can hear the question. Would ask that you state your name, what you do, where you're from, and then if you have a specific question for a specific individual representing obviously a specific organization, please address that individual so that we know, or the agency, so that we know who the question's geared for. So please, ma'am.
My name is Erin Crawford, and I'm not exactly sure which representative this would go to, either the DOD or the Small Business Administration, but it's regarding surplus. And I know that early last year or late 2018, there was an act that was passed that gives veterans preferential access to surplus property. And I know that the original projected date for the guidelines to be available for that program passed in June or July, but they were not completed at the time. The current projection for completion isn't until 2020, but I was wondering if there's a hard deadline for states to complete that by a certain time within 2020, and then how will that be available to veterans?
Okay.
Yep.
So actually, thank you for that question, and that's a great topic for this, because that's the advantage for small businesses, especially veteran-owned, because what we're talking about with this program, if you haven't already heard about it, is that you'll be able to get for free, because of your veteran service status, is that you'll be able to get free government excess, so furniture, equipment, and all different types of things. Here's where we're at with that. So GSA actually is in charge of that, GSA. So GSA actually put this out in a press release earlier this year, or maybe even late last year, but anyway, earlier, several months ago. And we've been getting regular calls at my district office about it. But the bottom line is that, and this has been going through SBA headquarters to the Office of Veteran Business Development, so their most recent update is that GSA still has to drill down on this, on how it's going to be done with every state. I do not know what that hard stop date is for 2020, but what I can tell you is that there is surplus available now that you can actually get access to, because in our office, we just actually had some old computer and television equipment that we put on a list inside of our state, and some small businesses came and accessed it right away. So there's a list
Jamie,
that is
where do they
available.
go to?
So you can
find
go,
that or
you
to
can
connect
go
to
to GSA at your state, and you can find information. And as far as the federal piece of it, the most recent policy, you'd have to your search would be a higher notch up. But we can get that information and maybe provide it to FVC if you wanted to put that out. And that way we can get those updates out to you. But you can just Google government surplus information for veterans, and you can find what the latest update is. But they're not ready yet to do this. That's the bottom line. But it's coming in the next year. But right now, just check with your state for what surplus is available.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Spence, Cross Creek Farm. I'm primarily a pasture poultry producer. Been doing it about a decade. I also am a partner in a USDA inspected plant. Is Helton here? Damon? I've got some customers in here that I slaughter for. So I've got a specific question. This is like all USDA. So that I have for that, but I think it exemplifies just a larger problem that I'd like to see addressed or hear your commentary on. If it's the wrong type of question, it wouldn't be the first time I've disappointed an officer with my decisions. That's right. E6.
I know how you feel, don't worry.
Sure you do. But all right, so Homegrown by Heroes, the FVC launched that. Great. If you're, how many meat producers do we have in here aspiring? All right, so it's a great label. It would be useful. I can't get it approved so any packaged product, meat product I have, I can't stick it on because it's not, the USDA won't, the FSIS, which is the people that look at the meat for you vegetarians, they're the, that say your meat's okay in the plant. I can't get it approved to put on packaging. We've submitted the label up, and it's not an approved label. I also have that problem with pastured. It's not a recognized term, and that's like half of what I do. And so we run into these problems where there's these great programs, and from the top, they're great, great intentions, good people, but by the time it reaches down to the actual level where I'm going to use it. Let me ask another question. How many here have met a government bureaucrat, and if you work for the government, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about your colleagues, that's dumber than a box of rocks, like VA included. Yeah, okay.
So the question is, how do we improve or get those labels?
Well, yeah, so there's that, we run into that. You run into people, whether it's the FSA, whether it's the NRCS using government programs or pushing vet stuff. I go in and I get someone that says, I don't know how to use that program, so we can't do it.
Right.
Whether it's the FSA. So there's a systemic problem in government bureaucracy where I, as the producer, go in and they don't know what I'm talking about. And either I can spend weeks trying to educate them and getting frustrated, or I could do the very military thing and just go figure it out myself and not mess with them.
So let's turn it over to Bill.
So how do we streamline that process when we have a problem? How do we jump up to where we can actually use it? Because it's systemic.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, excuse me. The way I would handle it is, you have all these local offices throughout the country, and anything that we do learn being in the military is a chain of command. So if you're not getting satisfaction from the local office there is a state person that you should be able to contact. Now, I would ask a question to you all. The process that he has just described, and ask how many meat farmers are here, are you having the same problem? Okay. Well, I'm gonna turn that
So
over.
Bill will be here afterwards as well. Bill Ashton at USDA.gov, I think. But
I'll check into that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was not aware of this. Not that it would ever be brought to my attention. I got homegrown by Heroes on my what back here, so I don't have a problem. They respected me, and I'm pretty good. So what happens is the programs aren't used. No, I agree. I agree what you had said. We find a lot of times, whether it's within the state or within the policy, that our employees about some of the programs that, to your point, so you're a veteran, what does that mean for me? I gotta fill out this paperwork for you, what are you trying to say? You know, so, we have acknowledged that that is an issue, and one of the top priorities of the secretary is customer service, and we are trying to improve that to the best of our ability, but I will find out about that particular one.
That's great, and we're taking some notes too, and we will use Michael kind of as a conduit for some of the responses coming back to that. So, yes, sir. And appreciate the question.
For that dude. Hey, my name's Joshua Nelson. I'm a C-130 pilot for the West Virginia National Guard. I'm still in. I spent 5 years in the Marine Corps as a combat engineer prior to that. It's pretty cool coming out here. Actually, Spence is a friend of mine. I didn't know he was going to be here. My question's also for the USDA. We run Nelson Family Farms, Farmhouse Naturals, and we also own a label, Patriot Bee Company. We've been involved with FVSC for about 4 years or so. And my particular question is in regard to country of origin labeling. I'm trying to think of the most politically correct way to say it, but I don't know of any law that has more disdain amongst small producers, especially people like us who raise grass-fed cattle and put true effort and hard work into making sure that we have a superior product, having to compete against Australian beef that comes to the United States, gets repackaged, and a U.S. label stuck on it, and completely being utterly deceiving to the customers that truly care about the product they're buying. They want to be a good consumer. They want to go out there and support the American beef grower, and they're being deceived into not doing so. I know that the bill's been reintroduced as of a couple of weeks ago to reinstate COOL, but my question is the department actively getting itself ready, once that does become law, to quickly reinsert COOL and make sure that we have a level playing field like we used to have?
I didn't answer the question, and you took a 5 minutes.
That was good.
Your question is sort of like the previous question there, that it sounds like you're having problems, whether it's your own packaging label that you want on your needs also. So I'll try to find out exactly what's going on with that and get back. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer. Again, I totally admit that I'm not an expert in this stuff. You know, if you haven't figured out my southern accent, you know, from the south of Boston, Pittsburgh, New York, and you get the opportunity to shake my hand, it's soft, and my fingernails are clean. I'm not a small grader.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right, so Keith, this is pretty much for you, I think. My name is Jeb White. I run a small cow-calf operation in Middle Tennessee. Recently retired out of the Army and mandated by Congress. Attended the Soldier for Life transition process during my retirement. I didn't realize that we even had a career skills program or the internship program that goes with, like what one of the folks up there was talking about. Long story short, did 20 plus years, didn't realize any of that stuff existed until about 3 or 4 months before I retired. So,
Just a couple questions. When did you retire?
when or where?
When?
This year,
Okay, so recently, and then where?
out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Fort Campbell. Okay, so talking kind of the awareness of and access to CSPs. I'll take one shot just as an Army guy and then turn it to the DoD guy. So it is obviously an expanding and growing capability that is still relatively new. As discussed, the numbers are improving and increasing. There is an effort underway to expand that and increase command awareness of it so that they can inform leaders. I know Campbell has taken a big step in adding programs. The other piece is there's still, when all said and done, a mission readiness requirement. And I don't know the nuances, happy to talk them afterwards, but commands still have to balance, mission training requirements, et cetera. So I don't know if it was that or just, it sounds like just kind of a lack of awareness, which I know the Army's working on. I'll turn it over to Mike real quick to talk about kind of DoD-wide, sir.
Yeah, so first the anecdotal. I'm sorry that you didn't get that opportunity. But the story is that we started SkillBridge about Army Career Skills Program about 4 years ago. The first year we only did 3,000 nationally, the next year 5, 7, and last year we got up to 11,000. We're going to exceed that this year. We have 185 locations around the globe where we transition people out, but we only have skill bridges currently at about 30 of those. And so we're expanding that as well. But as to whether or not you knew or understood, that's the key. We worked with our stakeholders, we took feedback from service members, and we worked with Congress, and that's why we now don't have Army policy, DOD policy, we now have law. And statute says that you'll go learn about these at 12 months out. At 12 months out, starting on 1 October of this year, you have to go in and sit face-to-face with the counselor and go through a checklist that includes Skill Bridge, okay? And then, when you start taking your transition classes, and we have 5 days of mandatory by law classes you take now, and again, we start 12 months out, and then you get to pick when you're going to go before you separate. Of those, during the Department of Labor's day, they cover Skill Bridge, both what's on your installation and then what's available nationally. What we didn't have last year, we didn't have a national map that showed you everything that was in the Air Force, Navy, Army, Marine Corps, Coast Guard. Now we have that. We have a new website that shows you everything available, actually worldwide, because we have programs in Puerto Rico and Germany as well, that you can go to any of those. And if, you apply, they accept you, you get to go. As to how we make sure you know about it, we have training programs now going on at the different service academies, not the officer ones, the NCO academies, right? To ensure that our leaders know what the programs are. We have a dozen Skill Bridge programs today now at Fort Campbell. So it's all part of that local transition process. But the key to it all is we now formally require you to go and learn about it a year out. Will there always be one-offs? Yeah, but those are going to be now people that are being put out at short notice or short medical, those kind of things. But when you're on a regular career path, the only way that a person will be standing here next year telling me what you're telling me this year is if there was some form of catastrophic failure of the entire system. So,
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to ask, how many, with a show of hands, have got GI Bill benefits remaining? You still got GI Bill benefits? My question is, I worked 19 years. First of all, I'm Randy Prather from Arkansas. I got a small cattle operation, just recently started that. Now, the cash outlay for those brood cows and them bulls come out of my pocket. But over the 19 years of working for career education there in Arkansas, I don't know how many veterans that I've seen use their GI Bill benefits for a degree that they never used. And I think I'm making more of a statement or a request than a question. I would like to be able to see veterans use his or her GI Bill benefits for a cash outlay of equipment, or those brood cows, or that bull, or a tunnel system. Hey, they're giving the money to the colleges, but to buy this tractor or go buy those, that's a big outlay for a veteran to get started in the business. But if they could use their GI Bill benefits, sell it back to the government. Hey, I need the money to buy that tractor or those tunnel system, whatever it is they're doing their farming with. So that's more of a request than a question. Thank you.
So being from the Department of Labor, obviously the GI Bill does not fall under us. That is a Department of Veterans Affairs program. However, I am going to say this. I did mention the apprenticeship program earlier. If you create an apprenticeship or you enroll yourself in an apprenticeship, and by all means, you could already be working, you could already own the company and still put yourself through a training program. You can collect your GI Bill dollars. If you're in the state of Texas, they have the Hazelwood program. If you decide to go to an installation in Texas that's state funded, you can collect your Hazelwood dollars. So while you may not be able to take GI Bill dollars, which are meant for training purposes, and cash them into the government unless they change the law in the future, you can still cash in on it by collecting that money to go through training. And you can prove that you're doing this training if it ties into the business you're already in, or if you bring some soldiers or airmen or other transitioning service members, even dependents who have a GI Bill portion from the post 9/11 can collect on that money while they're going through an apprenticeship or some kind of a training with you.
let me just add to that, first place, I've advocated for years, this is on a personal level, but inside the government, for years that we expand what we're spending our GI Bill dollars on. And we're doing that now. So I talked to you about kids going through trucker training for us. They're paying for that with their GI Bill, just like they pay for English classes at the community college. So we've expanded the ability. But even if, and I can't speak for the rest of the panel, if all of us here and all of our department secretaries agreed 100% with the idea of allowing you to have the GI Bill business for cash outlays for small businesses, none of us have that authority. And all of us agreeing wouldn't make a difference, because that comes into play with your elected representatives and how they design the GI Bill. And so that's a political question to be addressed through political channels as to whether that, because there are things that are policy. When there's a policy problem, Bill's going to go out and look at those policy questions that he received about USDA. And those are things that a director of a department can fix. But when it's a political question, they don't have that authority. That lies with your elected representatives, and that's the only way that can change, regardless of whether we all agree with you or all our department heads agree with you.
Great, thank you. So we've got about 10 minutes left in the series, and I know we have to break quickly so they can transition this room for lunch. And we are the one thing standing between y'all and lunch. So we're going to do 2 more questions. I apologize for those that won't be able to ask questions. Most of these folks will be here for the remainder of the day. Some will be here tomorrow as well. Happy to meet with y'all offline to follow up some of the conversations. So sir, we'll go ahead and start with you, please.
Good morning. My name's Elliot Bass, cattle rancher, San Antonio, Texas. This is for the USDA. You have a very large department, a lot of programs, including grants, and whether you're dealing with the NRCS, FSA, AMS, sometimes you run into problems with your point of contact, and which stymies you from using the programs that you offer. And sometimes you don't want to shake the tree too hard because you don't want retribution from the persons you're dealing with. Is there some type of ombudsman that you can deal with to see if you can get your problem resolved in that type of situation, or do you have to try to find their chain of command and try to go up that chain of command to see if you can solve that problem?
Yeah, my recommendation would be is to use the chain of command. That's the normal way of doing it. We've all trained into this. If somebody who's at the front desk is not taking care of you or doesn't understand, or you know more than they know, and something isn't happening, just find out who the supervisor is. I want to believe that no one would look at that in a negative way and say, oh, geez, here he comes again. I can't say that's true. Like I said earlier, the biggest goal that the secretary has is better customer service, and I'm just hoping that is. If you really want to get crazy about it, I can tell you how much the secretary cares about stuff like this. On our website, if you go to USDA.gov, tell Sonny. It's right on it. And believe me, it goes to Sonny Purdue. But I would recommend the chain of command, like I said.
There are.
If all else fails, I will tell you this. I have gotten emails. My email address is pretty simple. It's bill.ashton@usda.gov. And I've looked into a number of the issues there. I'm not saying that I'm a savior. You may not get the right answer when I look into it, but I'll at least try to get the answer for you.
Most of the agencies do have the ombudsman option as well. SBA has one that is on, advocates for small businesses too.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Heather Patterson. Sorry, I'm nervous because I farm to not be in crowds, but my question is for the VA representative, Karen. I'm grateful for the VA research that you guys provide for therapy and therapeutic things that veterans can do. I feel like there's a huge issue nationally, though, especially for minority groups, women, racism, ageism, sexism. We come back from the Middle East and we have severe disabilities, and when we choose agriculture as our therapy, we're discriminated against and told, well, you can't be that disabled. And the research doesn't really encompass those groups. And how is it that the VA, instead of it just being state-based, is going to use this research to educate other providers about how these things are therapeutic?
Let me make sure I'm understanding the question. So what?
Agriculture is therapeutic.
So instead of being state-based, so yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm addressing the question.
I've been in the VA in 5 different states, and providers aren't educated on the research.
Got it. Okay.
And then, as you said, oh, we have 10 different programs. They're all different. There's different information.
Okay.
It's not, the information is not being
Right.
spread.
That's what I wanted to make sure I understood. Okay. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that was in the 3 minutes. That was a piece that I didn't get into, and it is a really huge piece. Is inequities is another big part of course, what needs to be addressed. That is a finding that we had in the smaller pre-VA farm studies. That was definitely something that came out, particularly in the FVSC project with minorities and with women. There was definitely an issue with that. It's something that we're looking to find out within VA farms. We have seen, you know, when people are talking about things related to MST, which is not strictly women, of course, but those kinds of issues are coming out. But when it comes to, I think, to get to your point about dissemination of findings, this is, we work with this is through Office of Rural Health, that this would be national the way that we're going to be disseminating. So this would be working with the office for disseminating out to people. And I think what you're talking about is extremely important, that it doesn't just go through one channel to, for instance, professional conferences or manuscripts that may or may not be listened to by just a handful of people, but that it has to go through multiple channels of individuals, like conferences here, extension services, community, you know, out through the community, through different avenues. On a different separate project, I'm working on a project that is developing a community reintegration research agenda. We have an advisory board that has veterans, caregivers, operational partners, and community stakeholders side by side, and part of what they're working on is knowledge translation and dissemination. And this is where this kind of, we can bring this product to that board to say how is best to disseminate it. So I think this is the way we're trying to bring it out, because I think it's extremely important. It doesn't just belong in boardrooms and in professional conferences. Does that help? Yes. Okay.
All right, thank you, and thank you for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, what we've seen and heard today is just a quick overview. We've only hit the wave top of the array of programs, services, and resources available not only to transitioning service members, but to veterans, families that are looking to enter into the agriculture industry or are in the agriculture industry and looking to do better or do more. These resources span employment, educational, and entrepreneurial opportunities. As a soldier, it's my great privilege and honor to be here talking about how to make transition into and success in agriculture hopefully as painless and as beneficial as possible. I'd like to personally thank Michael O'Gorman, Rhea, who I know is running around trying to get the next thing set up, and the entire Farmer Veterans Coalition for putting together such a great program and a great conference. Seldom in today's politically charged environment can you get half a dozen members of the United States government together to accomplish anything, much less something that's hopefully informative and beneficial. So I want to personally extend my gratitude to each of the panelists that came in from across the country to participate. As I said, most will be here throughout the day. Some will be here tomorrow. and are available to answer questions. I know there are a number of small breakout sessions as part of the conference that will delve into more of the program, services, and resources. Please join me in a round of applause for our panelists.
Hey Keith, I just have one add-on. There's an additional breakout session that's been added that might not have been advertised because it just happened in the last couple weeks. The coordination, and is it okay, Michael, to mention it? It's an entrepreneurial small business workshop that SBA resources are going to be offering. So the local resources from Texas, but this is a model that works in any state. We're going to have microlender here. We're going to have the Veteran Business Outreach Center, our SBA team, and many others. And they're going to talk about business basics, which is a platform for any industry, including agriculture. Tomorrow, but I'm not sure what time. Okay, I don't know, but please inquire. I'll try to find out too. Stop me in the hall, but it is going to be offered. Yep, it's tomorrow. I think it's around like between 10 and 11 or sometime between 10 and noon tomorrow. Yeah. 10:30 to noon. There you go, tomorrow. Right.
Okay, and then finally to the veterans. Obviously, we're here because of you. Thank you for all that you have done in selfless service to our country and to your communities. To the farmers, thank you for what you continue to do in service to our country and providing the lifeblood of our existence. We're here today because of you and for you. Thank you again for allowing us to be here. My name is Keith Wilson. I'm an Army soldier for life.